Okay, we'll let these folks come in and get seated and all right. Call this BZA meeting to order. We'll do a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first thing I got is we had no February meeting because we didn't have a quorum. Just seemed to be like everything went wrong last month on the BZA meeting. January minutes have not been quite put together yet. Nick and I are working on that, and we'll get those done for next approval for next meeting. Second thing I've got is we got approval of the lane development for doubles in an R3. So basically what we've got is, if you're familiar at all with the development down here that he's done the other doubles on, he bought the house that sat right next to him. It just had a large lot. There's been a lot division, and he's going to place 2 more doubles. We're going to change one road to a one-way street. That alley will turn into a one-way going east. Just make sure going the right direction.
Yep.
One-way going east. Yeah, he's got some. There we go. That might clear up some mud here I'm going to throw. So, and as you can see, it allowed us for a little cleaner. When we first were going to make them facing the doubles were going to face south. The lots were going to be really long and narrow. It was going to give us some issues with setbacks and that kind of stuff. And we were concerned about turnarounds with fire department and that kind of access. So that's kind of actually Doug come up with the idea of doing the one-way road, which Lane will pave all that. And then put the setbacks in. It just helped us a lot with some of the issues we were having, and gives us, and also, so if you see where it says existing driveway, that actually goes back to a house back there, and that landowner had some concerns about people using that driveway. By making that a one-way east road, that kind of eliminates that, because people aren't going to be headed south where they would have the opportunity to even really use it, because they're going to be wanting to go back north to come out of town. Exactly. So we're hoping that will help facilitate that some as well. Has anybody got any? Do you have anything you'd like to add to that, or?
Hi everybody, I'm Ben Comer. I'm a lawyer in Danville at 71 West Marion Street. I represent Dwayne and have filed the paperwork for him. This is what we call the special exception application. It's to allow duplexes as a use in the R3. And if it's approved, we will be coming back soon for some what we call development standards variances to make these buildings fit. And I've been working with Mrs. Luzier on that, gearing up for that application. Tonight is the special exception, whether or not duplexes, this is a good spot for duplexes.
Anybody else got any questions, or?
And there is a public hearing attached to this, right?
Yes.
Yes, that was last, or today. I'm
So
sorry, there was. So
You
I
have
need
to make
open-
sure and clarify that in
Yes.
you have to close our normal business,
Meeting,
open
yeah.
public hearing, and then go back to business
That's right.
when you're ready to do that.
Yeah, I just
in
want to
whatever
make
order
sure if
you wanna
there's
do
any.
that.
I'm more concerned
Yeah.
about these two guys having
Sure.
questions at this point.
No, that makes
before-
sense. Catch them up
This
to
is on the
speed.
parallel road that we live off of.
Yeah. So
And they got
it's
4 or
just
5
down.
duplexes right there.
Yes.
Is he pretty much exhausted his building there? Is he gonna add on later?
No, that's about the end of the. There's no more property there.
Property.
Yeah, unless. So there's the one white house back there that is owned by the guy that also owns the big house on the hill, kind of.
Yeah.
I think that's his son's house is where he lives, or I don't know, but that would be unless they would, decide to sell that. There might be some more, but I don't think there's any more property back there that's
Available.
available at this point, right?
Sure. These units would be, pretty well similar to the ones that are immediately north of.
Nice units.
Yeah, I drove by 'em.
Dwayne does a good job, if you've noticed it, you just, since he's done the build, cause he's done all that building down in that area. Those are all his on Tennessee Street and even, Delmar Lane, he built all those. They do a really good job of maintenance, so.
And at this point, they're all rentals, correct? They're,
Yes, yes, sir.
he doesn't sell them, he rents
Correct.
them.
Correct.
So his property management company keeps up on all the maintenance and,
So she owns the house to rent it out too?
Yeah, he owns the house as well.
You want to plan on splitting that off, I assume.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's always a good point for in the future, you know, when you have a grouping like that, the maintenance will be a bigger deal as time passes, you know. You wouldn't want to turn it into a slum or something in that area.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, this, and everything's gonna be built, we're not building, it's all gonna look the same, you
Sure.
know, so
Sure,
we're,
they're
it's,
not.
no, they build a nice double. Well, we don't have any questions, we'll open the public hearing up. I'm gonna close the meeting for the BZA, and we'll open a public hearing for any or any, open comment as in regards to the, Dwayne Lane development. Don't see anybody on live.
yeah, I don't see anybody logged in either.
No.
Did want to point out that in the staff report, there's a couple of conditions that I had recommended.
Okay.
The big one being that until the rezoning's in place, technically the special exception can't be granted, so we
Right.
want to make sure that's a condition. Also, we'd like to make sure that the doubles will look like the ones that have already been built. We assume they are, but we want to just kind of reinforce that because the existing ones do look really nice. And as Mr. Comer had noted, some variances will need to be approved before they can proceed with building. And I'm trying to think here, we had talked about either Pennsylvania Street being improved or that east-west driveway alley kind of thing being improved, so it sounds like we're going with the alley layout.
Yes. Or that was the last conversation I had to
Yes.
Dwayne, yes.
And on the picture, it appears that they drew in kind of a natural curvature to the east end of that to kind of encourage people to go back towards Tennessee to the north rather than to the south, because if you turn south, you're going to end up on the Cooper's property, and that's one of the things that we were trying to avoid.
I see the pavement doesn't go all the way. I was looking at
It's
the,
gravel.
There, yeah, it's,
looking at the drawings. The
Currently,
pavement
there is-
already stops, and that's about where the road's gonna come in anyway. So it will be obvious to anybody driving that you're not on a roadway.
Do
yeah,
we know if
You
there's
know, it'll
a,
be a public or private drive, but at the gravel, basically, it's a divider.
yeah.
do we know if there's an easement for that driveway that comes off the end of Pennsylvania?
So actually, that's not the alley or Pennsylvania runs clear to the fence line, actually, if I
Okay.
understand right.
Yeah, if you're on Beacon, it's
The right of way
Pennsylvania,
does?
right, the
Yes.
Pennsylvania
Okay.
Street goes all the way to right where the Cooper's property line is,
Okay,
which is on the south side of this property that,
Right.
is
Right.
drawn on here, so, and,
so technically that's a public,
It
it
is
is a
technically,
public
Access?
street.
yes, it
It's
is
just,
technically.
there's not a turnaround, so
Right.
you either have to back up or anything, and most people just look and see, oh, it's because I can go back to Iowa Street this way, and so, but once you make that little uphill climb and then turn onto that, you're on the Cooper's
Right.
property. So, which the original, their house is addressed as Pennsylvania Street, and so they were not given access to Iowa in the original property, so they added that part of the driveway themselves.
okay,
So technically they should, but
and we can change
It
that
is what it
address
is.
if they want, that's not a problem if they wanna be addressed off of Iowa Street.
I don't know that that's a big deal.
I just didn't know for 911 purposes. Locally, they probably know, but
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're on Beacon and you click on their house, it's in the report on the official Beacon report. It says Pennsylvania Street for the address. There is one part of it that gives it an Iowa address as well, which is because we have lots of addressing
Issues.
conflicts here in town.
Wow.
But even Brian is at 120 Kentucky Street, and then the house
You see Amazon.
next to him is 87, and then it's or 86, and then it goes back up to 100. So, but anyway.
Yeah.
So as we look into this more, we can just make sure and try to fix those things. But
sure,
I don't
and
know
that's
if
something totally doable as long as the property owners are interested in
right.
the change as well.
I do know that the Coopers have complained about people using their driveway, thinking it's a public road,
Right.
and so
Simple sign.
the closer we get to that, the more we might have to look at.
Signage or something.
Posting it.
Yeah, they just need to put private,
There
in public road, private drive.
Yeah.
Basically right near the fence and that.
During the utility problems there with easements or anything over there?
We don't have it, no, not currently. There was some thought there was a telephone cable or something in there, and I think that's been rectified. That's the other thing we got. We've got a lot of buried cable in this town that's not active. Any other comments or questions? I'm going to close the public hearing in regards to the Lane property development and reopen the BZA meeting. So, I guess what I'm looking for is a motion.
I'll motion it.
And just make sure and restate exactly what the motion is regarding, including Deb's.
Right. Nick's making a motion to accept the Dwayne Lane variance for a special exception for R3 zoning and doubles, with the contention that the doubles are built in the same manner, and it is pending approval by the town board for the R3 zoning. Can I get a second?
I'll be your second.
All in favor of approval, say aye.
Okay.
Alright.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Lane is ready to go for the next one. Thanks,
We'll
Ben.
be seeing you again soon.
Yes, I'm sure we will. Next thing on the docket, I don't know that everybody got this because they probably didn't have his email address, or you may have had his.
I did not have his,
Okay,
but
okay. So the next thing we got is they put together this application packet and stuff that's got all, and I believe it's in this book.
they're not in the book. They're on the podium
Oh,
there.
I'm sorry.
So
Okay.
there's one packet for Planning Commission, one packet for BZA,
Okay, so this is
and
the
that's what this is going to look like.
Right, no, that's the other one.
But I can email it to you
Yeah,
right now.
you'll get an email of this, so,
Okay.
and maybe what the best thing to do is kind of review it tonight a little bit and get these guys up to speed. And
Yeah.
It's nothing critical for, it has to be done, you know, we can prove it all. So basically what the idea here is someone can, this will be online, someone can go out and find this, so if they need a variance, these are the things they've gotta have. So it gives them that availability, and you know how frustrating this can be, because so as you need this variance, so here's what I gotta have copies of. So you can go through and make this checklist of what you have to have. And this explains what those things are. And then if you have to do something where you've got a public notification, like a variance or that kind of stuff, this explains those steps and who you have to notify, those kinds of things. And then here's the dates of the meetings. So depending on what you're asking for, sometimes like tonight, they've got to rezone from R2 to R3 to get the doubles put in. Therefore, they have, the planning commission last month approved the rezone, but a rezone has to go before the town council as well. So the timing didn't work to make both meetings in the same month, so they're gonna get the approval on that hopefully this next Thursday. And so, but this is the date so that you've got an idea of what your timeline is to help you, and these dates are set for the year. Then there's the application packet. Attachment, property owner. This, like, so you have to have an affidavit, these are all your certifications, notice of your newspaper. But this basically is just a complete packet that they can go through and do all this to make sure they've got the paperwork they need. And it
One-stop
follows.
shop.
If they request it from us, right?
Well, no, they can get this online.
Yeah.
They can, that's the beauty of this, so
You
they
wanna
can come
send
in.
them, you wanna send them that way is what you're getting at.
We're trying to. Now,
Yeah.
if they don't have that capability, they can come into the town hall and get a copy of it. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But the idea here is that we can make this a little cleaner so that when somebody's got that question of, man, I don't even know how to do this, they get online, oh, here it is. This tells me everything I need to know. And if they got a question, we still have, she's here to help us with that till we get our new Dan replacement. You know,
Dan too.
yeah. And,
All right, it's sent, so you guys should be getting that email with that packet
Okay.
in electronic
yeah, so.
format.
But that's just, that's what we're, you'll be able to see that and go through it. If you see something that, especially, you know, Eric, you've been through it.
Yeah, the ringer.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
and hopefully they'll be calling staff and we can walk them through.
Sure.
When you see that packet, which is a one-size-fits-all for anything and everything that comes before the BZA, and you realize that only about 3 pages apply to you for a certain
Right.
petition, hopefully we can field those questions and make it as smooth as possible.
See, by doing that, it's gonna make it so much easier for someone who potentially wants to do something in the town, business-wise, or just home or whatever, because before you would have to go to Dan, and, you know, sometimes you can't get a hold of him, and
It was a
sometimes
little
he would
difficult.
say, yeah, that sounds great.
Did you,
and
you've
then-
done some things like that too, I think?
When I first moved in, I attempted to put a fence up on my property, but we have that problem with the back alley right there on Kentucky,
Okay,
where my neighbor, where her driveway, she built her garage there, and she has her driveway there. So if you actually take that alley to use it for any use, you can't get out from behind my house. You have to either drive in my yard or back up. So I asked Dan about how to put a fence up, and it was a little challenging. That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah,
So-
we're trying to get everything.
Yeah, this-
Between this and that and the stuff the town council's doing, everything, we're trying to make it so it's more transparent.
right.
Be the goal.
And
We
Clayton's-
understand things.
From the whispers and the little birds, Clayton's really starting to become more attractive and growing.
People are getting tired of the, I wanna say the larger, small towns around here, Plainfield, Danville. They wanna get out where they've got a little more space.
It's the whole reason why I moved here is because of the school district.
Well, that's also gonna affect the town, as you all know, on the infrastructure of this small
Right.
town. You know,
Which we're working on,
all of it.
right.
I was kinda interested, I was looking at the 2020 census data. Clayton has grown in population by 2.3% every year for the last 4 years.
I believe
That's a
it.
pretty steady little growth.
Yeah,
And
we're
that's
at
even
1100.
getting bigger.
1,100 population now, so.
And,
kinda
and-
cool.
and that's kind of our job, is to help, not so much with the BZA, cause we do more about variances and that kind of stuff, but as the planning commission to help, I don't wanna say control it, cause that's really not our job, but to help guide some of this, so that we don't get caught in situations like Avon's got caught in, or where you get a mass development of residential and no way to support it with infrastructure, or a mass development of industrial and no way to support it with roads, infrastructure,
You
that
have to
kind of stuff.
annex it and everything else. Brownsburg's having a lot of issues with that.
Exactly. Brownsburg's, they're between their sewer and their water system, and yeah,
They did the same thing in Monrovia,
yes, yeah,
you know, they can't support that,
right.
right?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of things to work through, so we'll have some things with these applications. I greatly appreciate you guys coming on board here. It's been Nick and I and Who else was here before Brad got on? I'm trying to think who else was on here.
It was, what is his name? He's on town council.
Oh, yeah, Shelley's husband.
Chuck Bond.
I can't think of his name.
David?
David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can remember what he looks like. Marvel names.
But anyway, so he was on it before he got on the council, and yeah, so
Right.
those things are things that, with you guys being here, number one, I hope to never have another issue where I don't have a quorum. I want to be able to have at least 3 guys here every night, or 3 people here every night. That's a big goal for me, that we don't have to put somebody off till the next meeting.
Yeah.
It can happen, but I just would like to not have that happen again. I hope to be a little more progressive and with some. We're going to do some reviews on the planning and building council, and if you've got time tonight and you want to stay and listen, we're going to have some presentations tonight on our comprehensive plan, maybe getting some help looking through that, and those will be things that might help you guys understand where we're headed with growth and development, and we might have some things come up that will be in need of variances or that kind of stuff because we actually, believe it or not, we actually have some industrial ground in this town, some zoned industrial ground. And so we might have the opportunity to bring some heavier industry in. We're not looking to bring a foundry in here and be the next smokestack town, but
Or Chewy's.
or Chewy's. Yeah,
We don't need that.
I don't think we need to be a warehouse town, but it might give us an opportunity to bring some heavier repair works or even fabrication and development, that machining, that kind of stuff, which will bring some infrastructure and jobs to the town. And those tax bases, and I don't want to make it all sound like it's about the money, but let's be realistic, those guys pay more taxes. And those taxes allow us to do things that we can't do off just pure residential development or farmland.
Things that we can do for every day.
Right,
Increase the park.
right.
Put some speed limit signs up.
There's just a lot of little things. Well, there's just a lot of little things like that sometimes seem very difficult for a town.
No, I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard me on Kentucky.
So,
There's a brown crown Vic that when I catch the guy, we're gonna have a conversation about how Michigan is not a drag strip, and if he runs one of my kids over, it won't be a good day for him.
Maybe me and you will find that brown crown Vic and that blue blazer together.
okay, guys, we can't. This is a public meeting. I don't need. Yeah.
It is. But anyways.
But those are the types of things that we've got time to. We need to take. And we just need to have some ideas so that we don't get inundated with things that we can't handle or plan for. The last thing I want to do is overload a school system, overload a sewer system, overload. We don't have public water here currently. Nobody's ever needed it, but if development starts to come, that's something we're going to have to look at. We're going to have to look at water supplies. We're going to have to look at stormwater system that's better than what we got. Not that it's terrible. We've with the state come through with the highway, they fix some things, but those are just the kinds of things that we're going to have to look at. So,
Who is responsible for maintenance, say, on the newest addition back here, west of us here?
that's the town.
Is it down?
Yeah, that. So, a lot of these additions, and I think we follow the same. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you may have read this book better than I have. Most of these additions, the developer's responsible for a period of time, and then it's turned over to the local authority.
So that's a lot.
Right.
Them roads are deteriorating every day, and I don't know, when was that put in, late 90s?
My
Yeah.
house was built in '97. I think it was the first one.
One of the
the first one or two. First or the second one, and they said, but I don't know if that's
I know that come in shortly after I moved in. So.
The other thing I kind of wanted to know, or some knowledge about, was, when Dan Slattery talked about government funds. Each town gets so much money putting into that. Is that the council that does that, or is it a set person that does that?
No, that's the council's the one that sets a budget based on what and they propose that to the state. The state approves it, and sometimes they don't approve it the way they want, and they have to go back through things and those kinds of things. But that's where that comes from.
They usually try to put some prerequisites on that too, don't they?
I don't know. Doug would be the one to talk to. He's been through that a couple times now, and I think it's a little, it's
I mean, it's like any other budget. You have categories of things, and we have a general budget. We have a motor vehicle highway budget. We have streets and sidewalks budget. There's a budget item that we get just from the cigarette tax that the state has imposed.
Well, I'm helping that.
Yeah. So, and you know, it's just a matter of what can you spend that money on. That's the biggest challenge. The state has a very, I would call it complicated spelling out of how each one of those funds gets used. They have, you know, even the motor vehicle highway fund is divided up into like the regular fund and then I think they call it a specialized fund or anyway, it's, so you, my understanding of that hopefully is getting better, but it still is like, wow, I read through this stuff and I think, who wrote all this? Because it's,
Well,
it's very complicated, but
I know that Monrovia went through some of that, and not that we are here, I'm not saying that at all, but I know Monrovia went through a lot of that, where they was leaving money for that town, it was on the table more or less, the proper channel of segregating that for that town, nobody fooled with it, you know. And
Yeah,
that's part of that town's infrastructure on maintenance and such.
right, yeah, and you know the obviously every dime that we get from property taxes goes into our general fund, but the state decides we have so many linear feet of street, and so motor vehicle highway contributes money to that. We, based on our 2020 census, the state decides, well, okay, out of the cigarette tax, here's your cut, here's your percentage of the pie. So for us, it's, you know, only, it's a little less than $3,000 a year. But, I mean, we've allowed that budget item to just accumulate, and so we've got a little over 17,000 in there now. And then this, you know, we just have to figure out how to use that and stuff. So, and then the riverboat gambling money, we get a chunk of money from that every year. But you know, that's what our we work with our clerk treasurer. She tells us, you know, how much money we have and where we can spend it and those kinds of things. And then it's the town council's job to kind of figure out, you know, how to do that and where to spend those monies at. We also have a budget for the wastewater and stormwater, but those are completely separate. That money that we get for the sewer system and the wastewater treatment plant and stormwater, that comes directly out of you paying your sewer bill. So all that money that you know, each household or each property, we send out 773 sewer bills every month. So each one of those persons or businesses writes a check and sends that back in. That money goes into that wastewater treatment plant budget. And so, but that's how all this work. And even with the BZA and Planning Commission, we bring in money sometimes by, you know, you just had to get a permit for your double redo, and so that money went into our general fund for the town.
And to speak of the roads too, in case you didn't know, I know Dan was working on this council still moving forward. They had a pavement asset done, and they're working on the roads, the worst condition. I'm assuming that's still in progress.
Yeah, because we got.
They've got it laid out. They went through and graded all.
Well, them
graded all
sidewalks
the
over
roads.
there is early 1900 something.
Well, they do the sidewalks when they do the road, I believe is how they've been doing it.
But because we got community crossing matching grants for working on the roads, that's why we had to get a pavement asset management plan. which is good. I mean, having those kinds of plans is very helpful. But we didn't have one before we got the community crossing grant. But there is not a grant that covers sidewalks unless you do the street also. So that's what Dan had been doing, is lumping those together. So if we did the street of Cross Street, then he got the sidewalks lumped into that at the same time. And so last year we did Crawford, Cross, and Tennessee for our repaving and then sidewalks.
Well, I got a sidewalk on Ohio.
Right.
I don't wanna make this personal on
It's-
this meeting, but
I've seen that sidewalk.
I was half, right, I was half tempted, I might as well ask it. I'd like to do that sidewalk instead of wait myself, or have it done, because of the time, it fills up with water, and my people could be slip and fall. This time of year, it's dropped that much, it's a bad situation. And if I was to choose to get permission to do that on my own, I wanna know what you would recommend on segregating that plan. So it would be 4738 from the alley south of my drive, that section. Would you guys entertain anything like that?
Wasn't it before that you could, Dan told me at one point in time, because we had that discussion for down there by us, that in the past, I don't know if they still do it, but in the past, if you supplied the labor, they would supply the material or something like that. I don't know if the town still,
Oh, I didn't know that.
since that has been years ago.
We do not have anything formal in place to do that. I know, like Danville, if you look on their website about sidewalks, they have a formal policy, and they will buy the materials if you're wanting to do your own sidewalk, kind of thing. We don't have a formal process for that. I think it would be great.
Well, this is the town sidewalk. I'm not talking the sidewalk
Correct.
from my
Right,
side
right,
to
right.
your
I know what you mean.
sidewalk.
Yeah, on the side of the street there on Ohio going,
It's the whole front of
We
the
have the
double lot.
yeah.
The second house down there on Zero Iowa, she did her driveway and the sidewalk
Yeah.
in front of her house at the same time
Yeah.
that year.
Yeah.
Was that 3 or 4 years ago?
That's Mrs. Myers. Mrs.
They
Myers.
did a really nice job.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, of course, they're made to whatever the thickness
Yeah, you have
is.
to follow the standard and the thickness
She
and that kind of.
had to do extra on that because she wanted to drive across it,
Right.
was the deal. So they could steal in it and et cetera, you know, to get that done. I done asked about that, because I was gonna put a driveway in at 4721, but I couldn't cross the walk because of that reason.
Yeah, the weight restrictions for the sidewalk.
Correct.
Right.
So you'd have to put rebar and stuff in it.
Right.
Glad I'm not doing concrete no more.
So those are definitely things that could be pitched. I would say that would need to go to the town council to do that.
Yeah, if the town's gonna buy material to give to a private contractor to work on
Yeah,
that, they would have to
contract.
approve that.
Yeah.
Monies, whatever, we'd have to have a budget item for purchasing concrete
Sure.
to give away for that.
Problem.
And then we'd have to have a system in place to verify that our monies were spent for something that,
A receipt.
yeah, and
So that's
that the work got done according to code and so on and so forth. It's,
So they'd have to be LLC'd and like, insured and bonded and stuff like that.
But those are all things that, because at one time the town actually had forms. I don't really know if we still have them, but they actually had 4-inch sidewalk forms that they would loan out to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
hearing stories that the equipment across from your shop, they used to rent that out to the town people to do what they needed.
I used to rent equipment every now and then, but not very often. I own that shop, so.
Oh, okay. So hey, yeah, there we go.
I used to rent equipment there, but we quit renting several years ago. Yeah, we rented skid loaders and excavators and stuff. Yeah, but then Buck Arnold has the big equipment, so. But yeah,
Yeah, bucket rent it, right?
yeah, bucket
Yeah, I
rent.
almost came banging on your door earlier this year. Couldn't get that well pipe out.
Oh,
I was gonna rip the whole ground out. I was getting so frustrated.
Okay, well, we don't have anything else, I'll go ahead and, does anybody else have any questions or comments?
I guess the only question that I would have is, do we do things in the town to, almost like charity, increase our funding for things that we want to do? Say we want to put on, like 4th of July. We'll put on something for 4th of July and dedicate those funds to something that we want to do.
Not the BZA.
We haven't, no, the BZA doesn't typically do those kinds of things. We've had some charitable things with the town. Used to be, Clayton used to have a community association. And we did things, there were several business owners and I was in it. A lot of members lived, or people lived in the town. And we do charitable things. We put on the fall festival every year. We take that money and put it back into the town. Some of it went to scholarships for kids. Some of it would go to the food pantry. That organization has since been dissolved, but I mean, those are things that could be, as we get people more and more involved in the community. Our biggest struggle right now is keeping people involved in the community. I mean, you can look at our packed house.
It's hard time. It's not like it was, 10 years ago.
Right.
People are pretty well sheltered and just with blinders on.
Yeah, it's just really hard to get people to come out and help. So, you know, to me, this is a great accomplishment to get 2 seats filled on this committee. Because it's been Doug was the one that had to tell me it's a 5-member committee, because as long as I've been on it, it's had 3. We've never had more than 3, and it was a 5-member committee. So that just tells you what, you know, and I've been on this committee in one form or fashion for almost 9 years. So I was, myself and some other people, when we started looking at the zoning for the town, taking our zoning back from the county to have some control over what happened. I was on those, you know, exploration committees and stuff like that. So those were, you know, it was just, like I said, just an accomplishment to even get 3 on the committee. So it's great to have a full committee now. So, if we don't have anything else, I'll call this meeting adjourned, 6:42. The next meeting, we'll probably just wait till 7.